Hello, hello!
Hey, hey! Welcome back to another episode of ISBN-Depth, but this one is special because we are giving you guys the amazing presence of us once again with a bonus episode for this month in June. So,
And not that we're never not personal, but we're going to be more personal this time.
Listen, we are getting, deep into our souls as readers over here today.
A glimpse at our personal lives.
Yes.
A glimmer of our madness. No.
Madness is a very good word, or chaos, whatever you want to use.
This episode, straight off the shelves.
Straight off the shelf. We are going to be talking about our personal bookshelves at home, how many we have, how many we've read, how many we haven't read, which I don't really want to talk about that part. But we're also going to be talking about some of our favorite books on our shelves and answering a few questions. Just get a little personal and up close with you guys and be painfully honest for a moment. So,
what if we did this live stream?
That would be funny,
yeah.
Except not many people would
No,
watch
I was gonna say, I was like, they trickle in. They
do trickle in.
All right, so
yeah. First question is, how many books do we have on our bookshelves at home? Obviously.
So I'm gonna do a caveat. So I have a lot of books, and I've separated it into books, and I've separated it into manga, which are Japanese comic books, because they're like a series of those. My Hero Academia is at 33 volumes, so I kept a separate section for that, and then I've also totaled it. And the second caveat is it's not all of my books, because I have some in the closet, my college textbooks, and I've got a few books that are like reference books that I don't necessarily read, but I do look through them if I need specific information. So total books, books 261, total manga 270, and altogether it's 531, give or take a few, if I count them correctly. And everybody knows I'm really bad at math. So and I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4 bookshelves at home. So
nice. I only have, guess I do have multiple bookshelves. I have the kind of shelf that just runs along the 2 walls of my room, and like half of one of those is just like decoration, not actually like books. And then I have like 2 other shelves in like random parts of the house with my stuff on it, because my books used to be in my bedroom floor until I moved rooms. So we're getting better. We're making progress here. I definitely do not have as many as Sam. I do not read manga, so that is part of the issue, but even still, I don't have as many as her. I have a total of 173. So, and I didn't count my like college textbooks and anthologies and stuff like that. I think I maybe have like 5 or 6 of those, and I have like a few Latin dictionaries from when I was in high school. So
I just remembered that I forgot I was going to put some notes of books I haven't read on here, and it's not on here. It actually might be on my notes on my phone. Give me 1 second, Ben. I can't find that note on my phone. I double checked, but some of the books I haven't read personally are like I included my poetry books. Like I have a Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson.
I included all my poetry collections.
But it's because I don't read a lot of poetry, so to me that's almost like a reference or just like kind of a eye candy book that I'm like, I will read this maybe one day, but I don't think I have that many anthologies, to be honest. But I debated on including my poetry books against me, as I haven't read them.
Yeah, and I did count like if there's anything like all my poetry collections I counted. It's like I've got Leaves of Grass. Obviously, I have not read all of Leaves of Grass. I've got some like short story books, some like Yeats poetry stuff, all of that. I originally had done like a partially read total, and then I decided that was just too much information. So anything that I had, like maybe I've read like half of my collection of Edgar Allan Poe stories, but I haven't read the other half. I count that as unread.
Okay.
So I think we did the same thing.
Yeah, generally, unless it's like a book, like a reference book that I know I'm not going to read the whole thing of. So. Yeah, that's what so how many books do you have unread on your shelves?
85. 85. Yeah, perhaps. Just a little bit. But I will give myself a little bit of credit. I have read more than I have unread. So
I'll give you that credit.
Yes. I'm going to tell myself that I'm not as bad because of that one little fact.
I'm about to make you look bad. out of my 531 books I own, she's covering her ears, folks. I've only not read 39 of them, and most of the ones I haven't read, like I said, are a couple poetry collections. Some of the classics, like I still haven't made it around to A Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah, same.
I have it. Huckleberry Finn I haven't made it around to, but it's on my shelf to read. So I have 29 books that I haven't read, and quite a few of those are from friends of the library. And
same. That gets me every time.
Because they're cheap.
Yeah.
They're cheap. And then manga, I only have about 10. I'm usually pretty good at staying up with most of my books. So.
Yeah. A lot of my unread books are classics that I'm just like, oh, I'm 1000% going to read this at some point in my life. But, like, it just, that and being an English major, having the classics and stuff, you know you're going to be reading it at some point in college. So.
Did you have books at your shelf that you're like, I know I read this, I don't remember a thing about it, but
There's a couple of those, especially, like, the books I read when I was little, you know, like, The Diary of the Wimpy Kid books. I can't tell you a single plot point except for the ones that are like movies now that I've seen.
I look at Sense and Sensibility on my shelf and I go, I've read you.
I
don't
honestly
remember a thing.
I have read that book recently, and recently as in like the past year and a half, and I don't remember a thing about it either. No. Like Pride and Prejudice, love it. I remember it, but I guess it's Persuasion and Sense and Sensibility. I don't remember all of the plot. And Persuasion, I think I'm mentally blocked because I hated it so much. And I'm going to apologize to our genealogist, Lisa Christian, because I know that's her favorite.
See, I'm trying to remember from Sense and Sensibility. I know there was a lot of walking in the fields, but that's Jane Austen. Yeah. And then there was also, like, a poor family. I don't think there was a dad. I think it was just the mom and two daughters. And they lived out in the country.
Correct.
And that's all I kind of remember from it. Though I've read it, but and I counted it as read, even though I don't remember.
You know what we should do? Is do like a little animation voiceover of me and you explaining the plot of books that we don't remember fully.
That would be. We should do a TikTok series. Man, we should do a TikTok series.
Mental note for Ben to give him more work to do on top of all the stuff we already make him go and do.
Well, TikToks are short, and Rhonda wants him to put stuff up there, so it'd be fun to, like, have random people, like, have them pick a book and be like, tell me the plot. Like, have them pick a book they don't really remember the plot of and have them try to explain the plot badly.
Or just pick a random book, look at the cover, and be like, explain this.
Yeah. That should be a separate series, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways. Continuing, so does working at the library influence our book shopping habits?
I'm actually really good about not buying books. Like, I read them here first, and then I'll go get them. There's some exceptions. Maggie Stiefvater and Marissa Meyer, like, those are people I always know I'm going to read their stuff, so I'm just going to buy it if I know it's coming out. If I have a series that I'm in the middle of and the next book's coming out, yeah, I'll buy it. But I'm pretty good about not buying books, though, like I said, out of my, like, unread books, 10 of them were from Friends of the Library, so if you haven't been to the Friends of the Library bookstore, check it out.
You will spend not much money, but you will come home with so many books.
Yeah, it's basically $1 per book or 50 cents for mass market.
Yeah, the mass market, and that gets really confusing with our patrons sometimes. When we say the paperbacks are 50 cents, we don't mean, like, if you come in with a regular sized or an oversized paperback book, it's going to be 50 cents.
It's like the ones you pick up at Dollar General.
Yeah, it's the same that we put out as honor books as well.
So, so I don't necessarily, I spend less because I go to the library and I check them out. And then if I really like them, I'll buy them. Like, I bought Magic Fish the other day because I read it at the library and I really liked it, so.
And see, I'm a little bit different on that. I do agree that I spend less now when like, the first 6 months to a year of me working here, no. But honestly, I think since we started the podcast, I have spent less money on books. And that's solely because, more of my time goes to reading books specifically for the podcast rather than completely for fun.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. But I will say I've gotten to the point where I typically won't buy anything if I've not read it before. Unless I want to, like, mark and annotate in it, then I will 1000% buy it.
I'm gonna call you out. You just bought Serendipity, and we have it at the library.
Listen, I did that solely because I wasn't going to mention that.
Serendipity by Marissa Meyer.
Okay, so I read Serendipity, and the only reason I bought it is because me and my friends were going and doing a very specific, like, bookshop, like, outing, and we set the parameters that we each had to go buy a book that we've wanted by an author that we've never read before, and we were going to go to Books A Million after going out to eat, and then we were going to go sit up in our church parking lot, lay out blankets, and have, like, a little book reading session for, like, literally we were up there for, like, 3.5 hours doing nothing but reading and, like, eating snacks and, like, not even talking to each other. So that's the only reason I bought that.
You should have texted me. I could have recommended, like, her series or her standalones.
I know, but at the same time, it was a collection of short stories, and I was like, we're only going to be up there for, like, so many hours, and I can just stop in a short story and be completely fine. Like, I would have preferred to do that rather than pick up something and have, like, this whole plot line still left and not know when I'm going to go back to it.
See, I probably would have recommended Heartless to you,
Heartless,
so it could devastate you.
But I own Heartless.
Have you read it?
No.
Read it. It'll devastate you.
Okay.
Because that one's based on the Queen of Hearts in Disney.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how she writes it, because the whole time, like, you know it's about the Queen of Hearts, but she writes it in such a way that the whole time you're thinking, no, this isn't her, it's this other character. And then you get to the end and you're like, oh, yeah, it was awful. I loved it. A lot of mixed feelings reading that book.
Yeah.
So does working at the library influence how often we read books on our shelves?
Very, for me. Like I said, just because, which I love how I
put not really.
I put not really on our little paper here, but no, thinking about it, I do. It does influence me a lot, just because more of my time goes to work now when it comes to reading. You know, like we typically have started doing to where we each read or watch a series, either one, every single time we film. So like for this episode, I even read something that was on my shelf. She also read something that was on her shelf that we hadn't read before. That's just been, like, sitting there. So I would say that it has influenced it, but at the same time, I think it's also kind of re-spurred my, like, want and need to read more. So I think I've started to get to a point where I'm more accelerated and trying to kind of balance it out between, you know, reading stuff on my shelves and reading stuff that I need to read for this, but that's my answer.
I read a lot from the library.
Yeah.
Particularly manga, but I read books, but manga, it tends to, because, like, these series are long. Naruto's, like, 74, 75 volumes, and I'm like, I'll read it at the library, so I don't have to buy it. But I'm also really bad, so I've been trying to read Babel by R.F. Kuang for a while, and it's a good book. I just got busy, and I'm like, oh, a manga came in, and I read it, or I had a reserve, so I read it. And then Yellowface, so Babel came out last fall. Yellowface came out this past month in May, and it came up on Libby in the audiobook, and I finished all of Yellowface before I finished Babel. Babel was the original book I picked to read for this podcast. I have not touched it, other than carried it to different buildings I've been in.
Oh my gosh.
I ended up reading another book off my shelf. Anyway, the next question's technically yours.
Yes. So what is the most recent book that we've read off our shelves?
It's funny. So me and my friends, we overlap our shelves a lot, like, because we read the same things. So there's a series that my friend has on her shelf, and I was over at her house, and I was like, oh, actually, this gets even weirder. I was at her library, because she has it on her shelf at home. It's Heaven's Official Blessing Volume 1 by MXTX. And so she has it on her shelf, and I was like, well, I'll read it off her shelf. But then we were at her job for the day, so I was just sitting around in Kingsport Library, and they had it on their shelf. So I read most of it in Kingsport Library, finished it off of her shelf, but it's something I own on my shelf.
So I didn't actually read your physical copy.
I didn't read my copy. I read 2 different other people's copies. No, it counts. That's most of my library books, or most of my books on my shelf are books I've either read from the library or read or audiobooked, and I wanted them.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the physical books I have on my shelf, I have not physically opened necessarily to read through it, but I've read the book in some capacity. So.
Yeah. Well, like I already mentioned the 2 I read most recently, which was Cat on a Hot Tin Roof by Tennessee Williams. I was trying to find our copy of it, and I did not do it in time, because I'm not sure we have just that play separate. It may be in a collection here. But it was really good. I think I liked Cat on a Hot Tin Roof better than Streetcar Named Desire, but not quite as well as The Glass Menagerie. Those are the only 3 I've read by him so far. But it was very fast-paced. I mean, I read it in 3 hours sitting on my couch. Like, I did not get up for anything. I just sat down and read it, and I didn't even plan to do that. I literally just did that yesterday, and it worked out because now we were able to film earlier. And then I also read Serendipity. I finished it. There was 1 or 2 stories in it that I will admit
were really good, and then other ones that weren't.
Yes, right? There's like 2 that I skipped, and one's just because the format of it was like, I'm not a big graphic novel person, and it was in like graphic novel format, just like randomly thrown in there, and it was like nothing that I was expecting, and I was like, I can't read this. Like this was not enjoying it. And then there's like maybe the second story in there that I didn't like, but the rest of them were really good. I like the diversity of characters. I like that nothing was really the same in it, and the point of Serendipity is that every single short story is on a different romance trope.
Yeah, like the only one bed or fake dating.
Yeah, like exactly. And the fake dating one's like the very first one, and it was one of my absolute favorites. But it's also, I liked how they didn't just stick to that one trope. Like, they incorporated multiple tropes into some of them, but it was still like the main one was still the main one. So like the fake dating one, it was also like a really, really, really close friend of hers, because it was like a whole friend group thing. So I was like, ooh, this is good. So overall, I probably wouldn't give it more than like a 4 stars. Maybe in between 3 and 4, just because some of the stories I didn't love, but it was still really good.
Let's see. What's the oldest book we have sitting on our shelves?
Longevity-wise, as far as like how long it's physically been sitting there, I would have to say Number the Stars by Lowry, only because I bought it in 5th grade for school reading, and I liked it so much that I just kept it. But as far as like physical age of the book itself, I was given a 2nd or 3rd edition copy of The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I think Dorian Gray was originally published in 1891. So I'm not sure when the 2nd or 3rd edition I have was published, but it's probably the oldest book physically sitting there. So
I went with the first one that came to my head, obviously not in front of my shelves. The last one I can remember probably is White Fang / Call of the Wild. I'm pretty sure I've had that since maybe middle school, and I've never read it. And it's still on it's one of my unread books. I do. It's not even a thick book. Like, it's a kid's book. I should read it, and I just haven't got around to it. Second, or not second oldest. Probably the oldest one physically might be a secondhand copy of Huckleberry Finn. I bought it from like a college bookstore sale, and that book was probably old when they sold it. So, but without knowing, I don't really collect old books necessarily.
I don't necessarily go searching for it. It's really only when I go and visit my aunt in Colorado. There's a lot of like antique and secondhand bookstores in like multiple areas in Colorado. And I had actually, that one we didn't even find in a store. It belonged to my uncle's mother. So I went, and they were like, it just sits here. And so they gave it to me as like I think at that point I was graduating high school maybe, or it may have been before that, but they basically gave it to me as a gift. So that's the only reason I got it.
Thank you. The next question.
Oh yes, favorite books on our shelves.
The first one that came to mind was my Atlantis the Lost Empire script book, which is probably one of the 2nd most expensive books on my shelf. And not that it was expensive, but the first one was so expensive. It was about $100, and the thing is, it's out of print and it's hard to get. So I had to like go on eBay and wait for a really good, because they had them cheaper, but like they weren't in good condition. But it's nice. It's like you flip through it, and it's got the script in it, but it's got illustrations from the movie. It's got
that sounds cool.
Production things, and it's one of my favorite movies. So it's actually on a little pedestal on my shelf.
I love it. My favorite book, as far as like plot goes, Little Women. Obviously, I've talked about that a million times on the podcast. Sentimental wise, though, whenever my great grandmother died, this month last year, I believe, I was given her copy of her complete works of Shakespeare, and we found out after the fact because we were actually at her house, doing like a little family memorial get together for her. And we were going through her books because I didn't find out till right before she died that she was a librarian, whenever she did work. And so she went to library school at UTSU, and that's what she did. She donated money for the library that's in Bulls Gap, Tennessee. That's where she lived her whole life. But I found out that that was her copy of the complete works of Shakespeare while she was in college, to be a librarian. So it was one of those things where they weren't originally going to move it, and then they saw how sentimental I got over it at that memorial service, so my grandmother surprised it, and put it as part of my Christmas present.
Now you gotta take it with you to library school.
I know. And then I do want to end this podcast by making Sam feel a little bit worse about herself because she made me feel so bad at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I do not have an answer for this solely because the most expensive book I've ever bought was probably just those fancy Barnes & Noble copies of stuff whenever you go into their store, like the big thick ones that have like the fancy covers. And those are only like max $25, $40. So, Sam, what is your most expensive book on your shelf?
I might have talked about it before.
Yes.
Which is funny. So when I was thinking about favorite books, I was thinking, what book would I have to save from a fire? I wasn't even thinking favorite story. I was thinking, what would I save from a fire? Which was Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which I said is like my second most expensive book. But Holic Volume 17, weirdly, it's not the first volume, it's not the last volume, it's just a random volume in the middle towards the end. And it happens when you're trying to, and I wouldn't say I'm like an avid collector, but I was trying to complete this manga set. And it's from about the early 2000s and stuff, and it's out of print. And for some reason, the market has inflated it, and I think I got it at a steal. Because a lot of people were selling it for like $130, and it was like an ex-library copy, which means it still has the barcode and the spine label, and it's not a clean book. Because we, in a way, damage our books when we put them in the thing. Someone was selling it, I think on Mercari, and I just happened to find it. I think it was about $130 for just one volume of manga that was originally $10. And the thing is, they've reprinted that series, but they've done it in an omnibus, which is a bound like 2 or 3 volumes. And all my other ones were single volumes. So
yeah, so you want to complete
I wanted a matching complete set. So yeah, that was probably my hardest find. I was really tickled to find it. Surprisingly, I don't think it's the book I'd save from a fire, though. Yeah, and I was really bad when I first got out of college. There's like book box groups and stuff, like Owl Crate, Fairy Loot, Illumicrate, which are like book box subscription companies. There's whatever book's coming out that month, and then goodies based off of other books and fandoms and things like that. And I never bought like a whole bunch, but they have special editions that come out quite often. And I was pretty bad about like for series that I had read and loved, like Strange the Dreamer. I've got a pretty expensive set of it. But like when you take each book's maybe $60. And then still put it together, it's 120 or whatever, and it's like annotated. It's nice, but to me that's not as expensive. And then there's like a Maggie Stiefvater set I just recently bought that'll be shipping out in fall. But it's these are series that I know and I've read and I loved, and I tend to buy them. But you can get really caught in what they call it FOMO, which is fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, especially in these book markets, they'll get a book and it's maybe worth $30, and then they'll sell it for 70 or 100 or 150, 300. I could get a lot of money for my Poppy War set, but it's just one of those, like, I was really bad about that, but in the past, like, year and a half, and not because I work at a library, just because I was like, you need to take a break.
Yeah.
I've not bought as many. I've been more critical of what I've bought, and when I bought, I'm very thoughtful about it, so. Yeah.
Well, I will make you feel a little bit better. It's not quite the same in my mind, but technically it is still a book. I have spent close to like $90 on a leather-bound Bible before, but still $130 on a manga.
That was worth like $10 originally. Yeah.
But at the same time, I, as someone who's a little bit OCD about their shelf, like I have my stuff in like alphabetical order because I'm so used to doing that here. and I like having sets that are complete, like my selection series. It bothers me so much because my very last book is hardback and everything else is paperback. So part of me wants so badly to like go to Books A Million and buy the box set and then sell my other ones. Yeah. But I'm just not going to do that because I don't need to do that. But I understand like the links you will go through to have it all matching. So.
That's an interesting question we didn't touch on. How do you sort your shelves?
Mine's in alphabetical. Well, mine is a little bit different than just flat out alphabetical. I have it like fiction alphabetical, and then I have my anthologies stacked up on the start of one shelf, as well as my dictionaries. And then I have nonfiction alphabetical, and then my Harry Potter books are a special set, so they're like sitting in a special way. And then I do have like all my fancy Barnes & Noble ones in like a different room on a fancier shelf.
Some of it's due to shelf height. Some of my shelves are too short for certain sets to be able to, so then I'll move them. But I kind of do it by vibe. So I have like a book of like, I've got like history ones, not necessarily like history nonfiction, like just like set in World War II. But then like with it is also alternate histories. Like the Leviathan series is an alternate World War I book, and then next to it I have Codename Verity, which is a World War II spy book, and so it kind of goes by like theme.
I can see that. One day I would love to be able to have like enough books that I've read to organize it by how it made me feel.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. Or like now, if I have an author, all the books are by author in that area. Yeah. Like I have a whole shelf for Marissa Meyer and stuff, but it's one of those like a lot of the other ones are done. Like I have a whole one that's kind of space related. And speaking of editions that don't match, none of my Chaos Walking trilogy matches. They're all different. They're all different editions. And so that makes me happy, though, because there's no point of the matching, because it'd be bad if I had two and then the last one, but none of them match.
See, I think all of mine match, but one thing I'm very glad about, though, is that I got those books before the movie came out, and so I don't have to deal with the movie cover of the first book. That was so irritating. I hate it when they do movie covers.
It depends, but
I just don't like it. Now, if you have a book with, like, Zendaya on the cover or something, like, she's beautiful, I'll look at it all day long. But other than that, if it's not Zendaya on the cover, I don't want it.
Tom Holland, you're not beautiful.
No, but you're dating someone who's very beautiful, so we'll give you that.
I personally like Tom Holland.
I do like Tom Holland.
But Chaos Walking was not his best work. And I think we're gonna wrap up.
Yeah, I think we've talked about our personal shelves long enough. Yeah. It is a bonus episode, so we don't want to bore you guys to death. Yeah. So, but thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Ben, as always. And we'll see you guys in July.
Bye.
Bye.